guys, it's Miss Leslie. I'm coming to you with a video about volume. Volume is one of those things, guys, that you know pretty good already. So this video is going to be very short. And if you have any questions, make sure that you inbox me. Okay? Guys, there are a couple things I wanted to make sure that I mention about volume before we continue on with the three formulas that we're supposed to know. First thing that I want you to make sure that you remember about volume is why do we need to use volume? Okay, so far, guys, in your short little mathematical careers, you guys should know that you have two different types of shapes that you should know about. You should have two-dimensional shapes and three-dimensional shapes. The reason that we call a square a two-dimensional shape is because you only have two dimensions that we have to multiply by to get the area. If I ask you to find the area for this square, you would multiply the length and the width together, and that would give you the area. So you only have two dimensions, both length and width. But when you have a three-dimensional shape, like a cube, you have three dimensions that you're supposed to multiply by. You would have the length, the width, and the height. So guys, that's the difference between a two-dimensional shape and a three-dimensional shape. Another difference between the two of them is that a three-dimensional figure actually has depth. What that means is if this were a real box, I would be able to put my pen on the inside of this box, and this box would be expected to hold this pen. That's very much different from this square, which only has two dimensions. It can't really hold anything. It just takes up space, which is why we find the area. Okay? Second thing, guys, we need to make sure that we recognize about volume is that all three of the shapes that we're having to find the volume of have circular bases. There's a circle somewhere within the shape, so that means that we have to use the funny looking symbol pi. Okay, pi, guys, is one of those figures, those symbols you'll never be able to get away from, because next year in the 8th grade you will learn that pi is what they call an irrational number. And what that means is that this number continues on forever and ever and ever through infinity and does not stop or terminate. Okay, so guys, whenever we're having to deal with anything, any type of circular base or anything that has to deal with a circle, you have to have pi in your answer. And I'm sure, guys, that your math teachers have taught you that the first three digits of pi are 3.14. Okay, so guys, later on this week I'm going to send out a little sheet where you actually have to put in 3.14 for pi to figure out what the volume is, simplified or rounded to its nearest tenth. Okay, so guys, then the last thing that we need to make sure that we remember is diameter versus radius. Okay, I was looking through some of the problems that you guys are expected to complete, and a lot of the problems give you the diameter. Okay, what you guys need to make sure that you remember is the diameter is the measurement of the circle all the way across. Okay, and the radius is the measurement of the circle just halfway across. So this is diameter and this is radius. Okay, so guys, if they give you in a word problem that the diameter of a circle is 16, to find the circumference of a circle, we have to use the formula pi r squared. And when I look within my formula, I don't see a d anywhere. So what they want you to do is they want you to go back and find what the radius is. If you remember that the radius is half of the diameter, you will have no issues. Okay? So if the diameter of the circle is 16, what's half of 16? That means that the radius is 8. So we would plug 8 in for the radius, and then we would continue to solve our problem. Okay? So guys, one thing that I asked you to do was get all your materials together, especially if you're going to make this foldable with me. What you'll need is a piece of paper, pen, and scissors, and I've misplaced mine. But what you guys would do is you would take your paper, make a hot dog, like this. Okay, once you got your hot dog made, you see you have two open flaps. I would want you to take the very first flap, not the second one, and create your little divots where you have three different sections for the three different formulas, guys, that we're supposed to know for volume. Okay, on the outside, what I've done was go on and label mine, because you guys could see Miss Leslie's not a very good drawer. I just labeled each one of the three-dimensional figures that we're going to have to know the formulas for. cylinder, cone, and sphere. And I'm going to put the formulas on the inside, and I've even got a little example of a word problem that you guys might see on the inside as well. Okay, so I'm going to take this to cover it up, and we'll look at each formula. Okay, guys, you do not have to know these formulas by heart. They are not going to give you these formulas, so this is something that you're going to have to keep in your memory banks. Okay, first formula that we need to know is the volume of a cylinder. Cylinders look like cans. That's the easiest way that I can describe them to you. Okay, so the formula for volume of a cylinder is V equals pi r squared h. And the easiest way for you to remember is that if you know how to find the circumference of a circle, which is pi r squared, only thing that's different is that you add the h to get the height. For example, over here, guys, I've got what a can is. The can is 3 inches in height, and the radius is 2 inches. So the only thing that we have to do is evaluate or substitute into our formula to find out what the volume of the can actually is. Okay, so you see I wrote my formula, V equals pi r squared h. Okay, everywhere I saw r stands for radius, I substituted in 2. And everywhere I saw h stands for height, I substituted in 3. Guys, it's a good thing that you have calculators and calculators on your phone. I just used my little calculator on my phone, and I multiplied. I found 2 squared. 2 times 2 is 4, and then 4 times 3 is 12. And then I make sure that I included pi and the unit of measurement raised to the 3rd power. Guys, that's so important. Whenever you're finding volume of any figure, you always include your unit of measurement. This time it was inches, and you raise your answer to the 3rd power. So yes, to answer your question, this is the entire answer. 12 pi inches cubed, or 12 pi cubic inches. Okay? All right, let's move on to a cone. Cones, like traffic cones and ice cream cones, is the only thing that I can really think about when you talk about volume of a cone. For volume of a cone, the formula is 1/3 pi r squared h. Okay, so guys, there's pi r squared again, the circumference of a circle. We have to have h again for the height of the cone. And because a cone comes to a point, you guys see right there, this point is called a vertex. Because it comes to a point, that's why we have to use the formula 1/3. Because what happens when you unroll a cone is that the top of it will be like a square, like that. And you guys know when you take the point right here on the end and you start rolling it from here all the way down, you're going to get a point. That point is called a vertex. And because we're only taking the point all the way down, that's 1/3 of its measurement. So the easiest way for you to remember is that you got a circle, you got a height, but you take 1/3 of it because you're only using this part, the part that comes to a point. Okay? So guys, in my little example over here, I said a cone is 3 inches in height and has a radius of 2 inches. So the first thing I did was copy my formula down. Helps me to remember my formula and how to evaluate into it. Okay? I kept 1/3. I kept pi. It says r. The radius this time is 2 inches. So everywhere I saw r, I put in 2. And the height is 3 inches. So everywhere I saw h, I put in 3. Okay? So this time, guys, when I found 2 squared is 4. And then 4 times 3 is 12. So, guys, right here, I'm trying to find 1/3 from right here of 12. So I just multiplied across. 1 times 12 is 12, and 3 times 1 is 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So the short and long of it is if you go on and do your exponents and then your multiplication and then your division, just like you do in order of operations, should get something that's close to a whole number. So guys, look at my answer. 4 pi inches cubed, because whenever we find volume, volume is always raised to the 3rd power. Last one we're supposed to find is a sphere. Okay, so guys, the formula for volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. The radius, guys, this time we find 3 times, because remember that if the base is a circle, then you're going to have to use pi. But the radius this time you have to find 3, because a cylinder is round all the way around. It has multiple bases. It's like a ball. You could roll a ball and the ball could be on its side here, 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 and here. So that's why we have to find the radius 3 different times, okay? So my example, guys, is a tennis ball. And we would use the formula V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. And I'm going to put in everything I know. Only thing I know this time, guys, is the radius. The radius is 2 inches. So everywhere I saw r in the formula, I put in 2. And then I just simplified. I said 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And then 8 times 4/3 over here, I said 4 times 8 is 32, and 3 times 1 is 3. Since I can't simplify 32/3 any further, I just kept it as 32/3, kept pi, and then I raised my answer to the 3rd power, inches cubed. Okay, guys, that's all for everything that we know about volume. I'm going to go in and tell you guys that you can complete everything under volume. There is a problem that's kind of messed up with volume, but I'm going to tell you which one that is in your lessons. And guys, as always, if you have any questions, just let me know. Inbox me. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend.